Hey America, I know it's been a while, but I know life gets busy. We all know how it is. Oh, shoot. I mentioned it before, but this is my family, my 3 little boys and my husband, and they keep me very busy. And, I switched shifts at work recently, so I've been readjusting to that and figuring out how that works. And just the constant struggles that everyday life gives us all. But you guys are important to me too, and this is important to me. I want to do my best for America and the American people, and so I figured that we should sit down and chat. I'll treat you guys the same way I treat my best friend. You can hang out and I'll talk to you while I'm folding clothes. So today I wanted to talk to you about the power of words and the purpose of speech. There's all kinds of quotes out there about how everybody talks too much, a little less talk and a lot more action. But at the end of the day, we kind of need to talk. We evolved to talk. That's what makes humankind so great, is that we can talk, but it also makes things a lot more complicated because communication is still imperfect. It is still a very flawed problem, and we're constantly navigating the balance between too much political correctness and still maintaining polite society. So I wanted to talk to you about the difficulties of that and how I'm aware of the challenges ahead and how I am the right person to navigate through those troubles and show you that I can represent you both here at home and across the rest of the world, and that you can trust me. So let's first start off by talking about communication in general. Obviously, humankind evolved pretty similarly across the globe. We all made different languages so that we could communicate with one another and form teams and form cities and form governments and form unions of people to work together and create a better world. And eventually that communication and teamwork led to the evolution of education, and we started schools so we could share the knowledge that we had discovered with other people. Schools weren't just originally for kids. In ancient times, schools were for adults as well, but being able to become educated was considered a privilege. And there's a reason that in olden times it was only the men who could read, and women were not supposed to learn to read. They had to stay at home and do the work while men went out and learned to read. It's become more and more as time has gone by a universal thing, especially here in America. A lot of developing countries, they still have struggles with even just being able to get their kids educated. There's still countries that the parents have to take their kids with them to work because they don't have time to take them somewhere else. They don't have someone to watch them, and these kids are in dangerous situations. And even here in America, when kids grow up on a farm, they don't have as much need for the fancy book learning that we tend to get in the cities. And so it's a matter of need, and it's a matter of desire, and at the end of the day, you kind of have to, you can't take for granted what we do have, but we do, as human beings, we have developed a fundamental need to communicate. All animals have a fundamental need to communicate. When your dog put their hair up and their ears back and they growl at you, they're communicating that they feel threatened. And we just communicate a little bit more complicatedly than they do because we have so many words and so many pieces of body language to try and communicate what we mean to one another. And so we may be the dominant species because of our mass power of teamwork, but at the same time we make things a little bit harder. But you can even see in today's society how everybody still has this fundamental need to communicate their desires, their wants, their needs, their beliefs, just through the existence of social media. Everybody wants to get on and talk about what they think and what they need and what they believe, and they really don't even care if anybody's reading it. They just need to let everybody know that they matter. And that's, a fundamental need here in humanity. And it's something that we are seeing grow stronger and stronger. And, there is a time and a place for all forms of communication. Not everything you think needs to be said all the time, and I think most people understand that. That's not saying there needs to be laws against saying whatever you want whenever you want. That's, freedom of speech is fine. You can say whatever you want whenever you want, just not without consequences. But it doesn't change the fact that not everything you say is going to be said at the right time or the right place. We have seen this in ways like in previous elections. Donald Trump and the locker room talk. But he wasn't the only one. Hillary Clinton got caught on a hot mic talking about millennials still living in their parents' basements. Even in previous elections, Mitt Romney got caught on a hot mic talking about how 49% of the population just didn't matter. And Trump called it locker room talk because in his particular situation, that was literally what it was. It was two dudes in a locker room. But it's, everybody has private thoughts, and psychologically it's healthy to express them somewhere, somehow. Whether it's go home and talk to your spouse before you go to bed, call your mom to vent, send your best friend a text message. Everybody feels better and is better when they can just get those thoughts out of their head and move on. Or to have another person listen to those thoughts and say, okay, I get why you're upset and your feelings matter, but let's also talk about why there's another side to this story and you shouldn't be so upset. It's why therapy exists and people are willing to pay for it. But people in the public persona get denied that fundamental right to privacy and, personal vents because people feel entitled to all of their time, not just when they are out in front of the public. And that makes it a lot harder for people to even want to go into public. People don't want to be exposed to that level of entitlement, to that level of hatred that you get from people who don't agree with you on this or that, or just people who find joy in trolling other people. And a lot of people don't want to expose themselves to that. And then you get the argument, they should have known it was coming, they shouldn't have done this if they weren't willing to do it. When in reality, this is the polite society problem we're getting away from. Yeah, you can, but just because you can doesn't mean you should. But I think that all American people understand this desire for privacy and being able to talk behind closed doors, because everybody pushes back against the NSA and the fact that they're spying on them. And let's be honest, most people, I'm sorry, the government doesn't really care what you think about Rap Devil. You liked it or you didn't. So if they're reading your emails, they probably don't care about them. But just like the American people are entitled to not have all of their private conversations filtered through by the government workers are entitled to have private conversations that the American people don't hear just because somebody got wired up with a mic and then went public with it. And that's not the only complication with any form of communication, really. Communication is extremely complicated. There's a lot of words, and they change their meanings over time, or they become more or less loaded in how they hurt people. You know, you're not going to hear the disabled community up in arms against dumb because of people who are mute, or lame because of people who can't talk or can't walk. But you're still going to hear people complaining about the use of the word retard for an insult, if, you know, whether you're using it on someone with Down syndrome or not, they don't approve of that word being used. And so because there's been so much pushback against it, it has started to leave American society. And now instead, you don't hear the kids saying that anymore. When the kids want to insult one another, you're being autistic. It's the same thing. Language evolves, and they're going to fill the gap with whatever they want to express their point in whatever fits the time. And certain slurs are going to continue to be offensive to certain groups simply because of the history. You know, the way that that word came into existence is going to be offensive to people. And you can't change what makes people upset. Everybody gets offended about something, you know. Somebody says Black Lives Matter, someone else is going to get mad and say all lives matter. Someone says I hate men, and someone else is going to come back and say not all men. And if someone says I will pray for you, someone's going to get mad because they don't believe in your God. And sometimes it's the most random thing in the world that can offend somebody. You really never know what's going to upset somebody. You know, in my own personal life, a couple years ago, a friend of mine shared a meme to me on Facebook about, you know, a kid had been caught cussing in class, and she got off the phone with the teacher and then got down and, "What the F, Kyle?" And the person that shared this to me was my ex-boyfriend Kyle's sister-in-law. So I made the joke at the time, "Oh, who would name their kid Kyle? What a crappy name." Because I thought she would find that funny as Kyle's sister-in-law and knowing my history with this man. And my dad, who's named Kylie, saw this and was just inconsolably offended because the name Kyle is so similar to the name Kylie that in his mind, making this joke about the name Kyle was an insult to his own name. And, you know, the best we can really do in life is just live with good intent and not try to be hurtful. And as long as your intent is good, just keep moving forward, because people are going to get offended anyway, and you can't stop them, and all you can do is just try to do good. And as long as you're not intentionally calling someone by the F word, it's not that big of a deal. But on top of that, there are other words that can automatically shut off a conversation, other words that will automatically stop someone from listening to you, words that are curse words that, you know, what is offensive to me is not going to be offensive to somebody else. You know, I'm someone who, I curse like a sailor. I'm born and bred Irish. I don't even just run the gambit with Blink-182's family reunion. I put in fictional curse words from TV shows and books and movies. So if you hear me saying fracking, well, Battlestar Galactica, what can I say? And it's, even those do evolve over time. You know, most of our modern curse words are curse words that are related to private parts and private acts, but, you know, even they didn't always used to be that way. You know, calling something gay, which now is akin to retard and autistic, like I talked about earlier, was supposed to, is making that kind of same othering correlation on the homosexual community. And before that, the word gay meant happy. And in other Christmas carols, I remember being in middle school, and we were so excited because we were old enough that we got to sing Little Drummer Boy. And the nun that ran the music program was very, very old-fashioned. And so we got to sing that the ox and ass kept time. And I guarantee you, the first time that we got to sing that, there were giggles through the whole classroom. Everybody just thought it was so funny we said ass. But, you know, now I'm older, and when I use that word, and I do, I mean, it's another word for butt. It's just another word for a piece of my body that does things that people don't like to think about, and you have to clean pretty good after you do. But that's it. That's the base of it. And people will shut you off if you start using those words, because there's that blanket, automatic refusal to accept these offensive words as polite society, because there's a blanket unacceptability to polite society, including private parts and private acts in the public. So yeah, it's extremely complicated to be a communicator. You know, the time and the place has to be right, and even then, language and the human emotions make things very difficult. And especially because of the human emotions, it does make it very difficult to navigate what you need to do to represent people, because you don't want to offend the people you're representing. That's a lot of the pushback against Donald Trump. That's a lot of the problems when President Obama would sit there and attack Republicans and blame everything on Republicans. At the end of the day, Democrat, Republican, man, woman, white, black, Asian, Hispanic, other, we're all Americans, right? Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing here? Is coming together to form a more perfect union as Americans? And so if you're gleefully offending half of the people you're supposed to be representing, well, no. It's not funny when someone says, he's not my president. Because we should have presidents that are everybody's president. Not just the people who voted for them. Everybody. Doing the best for America. That's what their job is. Not just do the best for your half of the voters. And it's not easy. It's not easy to have conviction in your own beliefs and move towards what you believe is best and still be mindful and careful when you speak so as to not be offensive. I'm sure that I've already had people turn this off because I said it wasn't offensive to call something dumb, or because I used the word ass. And I'll bet my dad stopped watching when I brought up that he was offended by my joke about the name Kyle. But, you know, it is important. It is something that, you know, politicians are representatives. They should be actively trying to represent the people they represent without offending them. It's not about going and pushing your own beliefs on people. It's about representing the people around you. And, you know, the president himself is the only elected official who is elected by the entire country. You know, everybody else is elected by this district or that district or this state or that state. And the president is our one person that the whole country says, this is America. And that one person not only has to communicate with the American people, so they have to be able to reach people of all education levels, not just the intelligent, not just the unintelligent. They have to speak to be understood and believed by all people. But they also have to be able to speak to foreign dignitaries. They have to be able to sit down in a room with Vladimir Putin, Angela Merkel, Theresa May, Justin Trudeau, Kim Jong-il, and still come out of that interaction just as strong and standing up for America and what we need and what we believe in, and still being allies to those countries, still trying to do our best to have a peaceful and good world. None of us want war. We need a standing military and police force to protect us, absolutely. But none of us want to go to war just for the sake of war. And so even the other governments that their representatives aren't always people that we agree with, that's even true here in the United States. I don't just have to go toe-to-toe with foreign dignitaries. I have to be able to stand up to Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Mike Braun, left, right, career politician, brand new face in government. You got to be able to deal with them all. You know, the president is the single person that the American people say, hey, you got to deal with all of the nitty-gritty. Every little tiny piece, that's you. They're ultimately the jack of all trades. It's not... I don't care if Obama was a con law professor, which obviously as a con law professor, he lost more SCOTUS battles than any other president, so he didn't know con law that well. But being specialized in just law is not what the president needs. They need to know all the things, because they have to be able to deal with all the different people and all the different things. But they also need to be able to talk to the American people. They have to make time for the American people. And it's why President Trump is on Twitter. And it's why Franklin Delano Roosevelt had radio chats through the Great Depression and World War II. Part of the job of the president is also to touch base with his and her own people and to educate and inform them as much as they're able to. And you got to be able to trust that they are telling you as much as they can. We all know that there are matters of national security that you can't publicize, but you got to be able to trust that the things that your president is keeping from you are things that they believe are a matter of national security and not just trying to get what they want, so they're hiding the truth. And that's not to say that we need to trust every single person and give every piece of information, but one of the best things I've ever had a boss tell me was, I will tell you everything I can, and if there's something I can't tell you, I'll tell you that I can't tell you. And that's the kind of trust that I want the American people to have in me. I will do that. I will be as transparent as possible. I will sit here and fold my socks with you, if that's what I have to do to make sure that I'm getting the word out. I'm not going to send a press secretary to go answer all your questions. I'm going to make sure I'm talking back with America, because the president is supposed to be the representative of the American people. I really believe that I can do this, that I am right for this. I believe that my message of teamwork and coming together in America and being Americans again, instead of being all of our individual cultures, and those cultures matter too. That's not me saying that that being a Christian isn't important, or that being black isn't important, or being gay isn't important, or being a man isn't important. All of those things are pieces of you that are important. Every single piece of who you are and what makes you up matters. But we're all made up of those different pieces, and we need to come together to make a team. Team America. World Police. No, I'm kidding. Just Team America. And I can't promise that I'm not going to slip up sometimes. I can't promise that sometimes things aren't going to come out and you're not going to be offended by what I've said or choices I've made. And let me tell you, I've absolutely made mistakes. I'm not perfect. I am just like every other human being. I've made a lot of mistakes. We all do. Some of them were made with good intentions, and some of them I was still learning to be a good person. And that's not to say that I'm going to excuse myself going further. I'm not going to make excuses. If I did something wrong because I wasn't being a good person, I will own that. But from here out, I want to be a good person, and I want America to be a good nation. And I want to work together with all the other Americans to make America the best nation. I'm going to try my hardest. I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to talk to the world, and I'm going to talk to those legislators who we all know are not doing their jobs. And to take a page out of President Trump's book, I'm going to use the best words for every situation so we can get the job done.